Let me press record.
Alan, what's up? How you doing, brother?
Hey, Rafik.
Nice to see you, man.
Hey, Alan, how are you, brother?
Hey, Saul.
All right. So while people are joining it, keep letting people in. Let's start with our traditional. What are you excited about? I'll pick on you, Alan. What are you excited about today?
Well, interesting. We just watched a high-speed chase on the water here in Newport Beach. Like the sheriff was going like 30, 40 miles an hour in a speedboat going after somebody. You never see that around here.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm
Anastasia,
excited
what are you
about.
excited about today?
Who are you talking to? Not me.
Anastasia.
Anastasia. Anastasia just came back from Commercial Academy.
I did.
Okay.
Learn anything new?
So
Actually,
what are you excited about today? Share with us what are you excited about today?
about today, I want to
Yeah.
learn about how to do the creative financing for sure.
For sure. You're here for the treat. You're gonna hear from the master that I
Yes.
learned a lot.
Today we were
All right,
talking.
one more. Yeah, one more. John, what are you excited about today? Let me unmute you. You muted.
Excited to be here, man.
Okay.
As always, excited to learn a little bit, and it's always good when some of the best people in the game are in the room.
Awesome. All right, cool.
You did this
Yeah.
last minute, Saul. I was like, dude.
All right, so let's go.
Yeah.
So,
Hello.
today, guys, you're here for the treat. Oh, I need to keep adding. There's more people. All right, so I'm adding more. Some more people. So today, guys, you are here for the treat. We've done this with Rafik, I think, probably a couple times already. And Rafik presented presentation about creative financing at our boot camp. And through our surveys, actually, this presentation was the best hit that the people finding the most value. And I definitely, can tell by myself, right, that Rafik told me a lot about creative financing and definitely changed the trajectory of my career and how to buy deals. And it really, when you understand on a deeper level what it is, it just commercial real estate became just really like a fun game. So with that, I'm not gonna hold too much. I think, Rafik, you have a presentation. You want to start with whatever you want to start. Floor is yours.
All right. So, one very very nice seeing you guys here. Make sure you admit people who are coming in because of the way it works.
We have probably about 50, another 30, 40 should come in.
All right. I'm very, very glad to be here. And one of the most important things about the game of commercial real estate finance, or I shouldn't say commercial, just real estate finance game, is the ability to build life of your dreams by using financial engineering combined with relationship building, combined with understanding of the value difference between the projected value and your cost basis. If you understand these three aspects very well, you will be a very wealthy person and you'll have a lot of fun in the meantime. All right. So what do I mean? At the end of the day, I am a financial engineer, and as long as the outcome of the negotiation leads to a win-win situation between you, your capital partner, because you always want to have a capital partner. This is not about you putting your own money to buy properties. That's easy. The best thing is to find a deal, find the money, and then put a whole thing together. That's what the game is all about. That's what Alan Schnorr teaches. And thirdly, how to build relationships over a long period of time so people will consistently work with you and every deal becomes a down payment on the next one, And I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation with you guys. Today is very simple. I'm not going to go into theory. I'm not going to tell you all kinds of things. I'm just going to go about and talk about 3 case studies where I was able to purchase 3 properties in the past 5, maybe 10 years without using any of my money. And I made anywhere from $1 million, $1.3 million, and I think $1.5 million on 3 of them. Just small deals, easy deals. They were fun. And I'm very, very lucky to have found really good sellers. Tough sellers, by the way, but nonetheless, they were super exciting to work with. Paul, you got to Saul, you got to give me access to your share.
Yep, you got it.
All right. Okay. And
Yep.
here we go.
Do we see your screen?
You see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So creative seller financing. So what is seller financing to start with? It's unnatural, or it's not very typical in the conventional, in the realm of working with brokers and doing deals, to involve sellers in the financing. And that's why, if you understand it correctly and you pitch it to sellers and brokers, there's a really, really good way for both you win as a buyer and for them to win as a seller. I'm going to kind of break it down today. The seller financing is essentially asking the seller to finance the purchase of your property. Seller financing can be in two ways. You can ask them to finance it in senior position. In other words, they'll give you 70-80% of the purchase price, and you put the money down. They become a bank. Or you could ask the seller offer equity, where they will give you down payment when you get first mortgage on the property. Usually the difference between you buying the property all cash and the seller financing it is you giving him a little more money. That's the incentive. Having said that, in the past, I had multiple sellers insist on doing seller financing because they didn't want to pay the tax. And they said, look, I will only sell it if you do buy a seller financing, otherwise not interested to sell, which was really good. The other thing I want to tell you guys, I own a lot of real estate, 70 or more buildings, about 5 million square feet. And I always try to sell my properties seller financed. Why? Because I don't want to pay the tax, number one, and I want the financial freedom and cash flow. And so when I seller finance it, I want to make sure I have a good margin. I want to make sure I have some down payment. And I want to make sure I have sellers either personal guarantee and payments. Personal guarantee is when I get like a junior debt or equity, so that I get them on the hook. I also ask for, when I finance seller financing deals, I also ask for assignment of the membership units in the LLC. So if they misbehave and act dishonestly, I can always wipe them out and take over the property. Seller financing is all about building a relationship with your seller. And mentally, in my head, I always try to pretend that seller is really my investor. You see, when you go and buy a property, there's two conversations going on, and they're in two different rooms. Conversation number one is with your broker and with your seller. And you beat up on the property, say it's bad, assume all the worst things, and try to get as low a price as possible. In a separate room, you talk to an investor and you talk the property up, and you say, hey, this is a great property, it's amazing, I can make money on it and whatever. And the investor gets the best of it and the seller gets the worst of it. Well, what I'd like to do is flip the script. As soon as we get the property under contract, and most of the time, the sellers will misrepresent. Most of the time, when you buy older properties, there's distress. There's roofs, HVAC, lots of deferred maintenance items, which gives you the opportunity to renegotiate or ask for concessions or whatever. And sellers usually say, all right, fine, you want to buy my property for $3 million, but the roof is messed up. I'll give you $300,000-$400,000 to fix the roof. We do it all the time, and then we get a roof out of it, right? So working with sellers is always seller finance is always about relationship. I treat my sellers like investors, and I offer them references. If they're interested in seller financing, I always say, look, I'll give you a copy of my credit report so you know that I'm a credit-worthy guy. I also will always give them my personal financial statement to demonstrate that I'm a serious operator. I got a lot going on. And usually they, many times they don't look at it. They send it to their CPA and they verifies it. But for the most part, that's how you kind of get across the credibility factor. Now, what are the
one more thing, Rafik. I want to probably you want to emphasize, especially in negotiation. A lot of times you or we start as a traditional offer, and when we discover whatever is misrepresented, it's such an easy, how you can call it retrading when you try for seller financing.
But you need to understand seller's motivation, and once you sort of do it enough, Like I sell properties all the time and I have a huge tax liability. So I'm kicking myself. I sold a building and I received the $3 million check from the closing, but my gain is 4 million because before I bought this property, I 1031 into this thing. So I'm doing my math. I'm like, what the hell did I do? I should have refinanced this property or sold it on a contract for deed so I can get 90 grand more in income. Long story short, there's many benefits to the seller of the seller financing, provided you build credibility and involve the seller in a relationship with you. Tax deferral is the number one issue that sellers deal with, because in the United States of America, they say you can't avoid death and taxes. Well, that's a wrong statement. Technically, you cannot avoid death, but you can avoid taxes. And that's how it works. This is how it works. If you buy a property, right, and you're in your 30s or 40s and you depreciate it, you have a zero basis in that property. And then you live 75, 80 years old, you had a beautiful, good life, and you die. And when you die, your children inherit the property at what's called a step-up basis. And step-up basis means that when they inherit the property, they will say, all right, I'm inheriting it at the property value. And whatever the property value is, if you sell it, you do not have to pay the tax. So your kids will not pay the tax. That's why when you deal with probate, let's say somebody died and kids are selling it, there is no tax liability. Don't ask them to do seller financing. They just want to cash it out because they keep 100% of the money. Follow? By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to interject and ask me questions. I have made hundreds of seller finance deals. I'll be happy to break down.
Yeah, we'll do a Q&A, guys, at the end. So if the questions pops up, put them in the chat and we'll take them at the end.
All right. The second thing that is benefit to the sellers is obviously interest income. If you go and put your money in a bank account right now, you'll get 2-3% return. Many times when I do seller finance deals, I offer them 6, 7, sometimes 8% return, interest only, and they get paid monthly, right? So that's an exciting thing. If you have $10 million in 2-3 properties and you sell it all and you get 8% interest, you can live off the interest while your principal is preserved and sits in the property, secured by a property. So interest income is another really, really good way for you to have passive income. And then security and familiarity. Seller already knows the property. Seller knows where it is and he's known it forever. So if something happens to you, he can get the property back and resell it again, right? As opposed to, what do? They sell the property and they have to go and chase a new deal, some kind of a 6 cap, and they don't know what kind of property it is, and it's difficult. And so usually sellers, if you convince them of your character and your credibility, will be happy to do a deal with you and seller finance these deals to you. Okay, you need to understand the capital stack: senior debt, junior debt, mezzanine financing, and equity, preferred equity, and common equity. And that's a discussion for a next call, or we do talk about it. So this is a deal where 7703 Central Avenue, Spring Lake Park. Here's a story of this deal. I purchased this deal for $900,000, a 20,000 square foot warehouse building in Minneapolis. I walked in. Seller was my neighbor. Actually bought a building right next door, and he was bitching about my tenants using his driveway. And I heard him, very old sounding guy, talking to me, and he's like, "Oh, your neighbors are using my driveway. Tell them not to." And I said, "Who are you?" He says, "My name is Jerry. I own the property right next door." I said, "Jerry, how old are you?" He's like, "I'm 85. So what are you doing? You should be retired in Bahamas. Why are you property managing this thing?" He's like, "Well, yeah, whatever." I said, "Jerry, can I buy you a cup of coffee or lunch? Let's get together. I'm your neighbor now, right? Let's talk." Of course, my idea was to buy the building because I don't want him to lock out my tenants at the garage door. Yeah. And we got together. I bought him lunch. We talked. He told me about his kids and grandkids, and the property was in a trust. All he cared about, this guy, is that he doesn't have to pay taxes and pass on this to his grandkids. He loved his grandkids. I said, "Look, Jerry, it's an empty building. It doesn't make any money. It's sitting vacant. How about I buy it from you, but it needs a lot of work. So I want to put $50,000 down, and I want to get a seller financing for $850,000. I want to pay 5% interest, fixed for 5 years, amortized over 30. And I would like to make no payments for the first 3 months during the repairs because I want to clean it up and lease it. He says, no problem. As long as I don't have to pay the taxes, talk to my lawyer, he said. I want you to talk to my lawyer and I will let you know if we can sell it. I called the lawyer, explained to him what I got going on. Lawyer's a really nice guy. I'm still friendly with him. And basically, we put a deal together. I also baked in a no prepayment penalty, meaning I can pay it off anytime because I like to refinance these properties. But I also put in a substitution of collateral clause. Substitution of collateral is a clause that you use when you replace the collateral of this property with another collateral so that the guy does not have to pay taxes, but you can relinquish this specific property to either sell it or refinance it. So this was a really interesting deal. I found 3 tenants for the property. Auto tinting company, they basically put all kinds of things on vehicles. What do you call wraps and tinting. Tofu company, which I invested into $500,000 and barely got my money back. And Granite Fabrication. These 3 tenants paid in together about $150,000 of rents, triple net, which made this property worth about $2 million, you guys. This building was $2 million, 20,000 square feet. And needless to say, 3 years later, I never listed this on the market, but the tenant said, hey, I'd like to buy the building. I'd like to invest in it. I said, no problem. And I sold the building for $2 million. It cost me about $1.05 million. So I think I realized the profit of $1 million on this thing within 3-4 years. But it made about $6 to $7 grand of cash flow every month while I owned the building. So it was a really good building. Today it's probably worth about 2.4 million. So I'm glad I got the money out because I reinvested it somewhere else. But this is one of the typical deals. When I talk to my coaching students, I want them to look for stuff like this. Don't get enamored with gazillion square foot properties that are, $20 million, $30 million. That's a next level. But these types of deals right here, they're everywhere. And if you find something abandoned, talk to the seller, negotiate with them. I didn't have to put much money down. I didn't have to get bank financing, but I made $1 million in 3 to 4 years, and this was a really good deal. So please take the address. You can look it up or whatever. This was a really good deal, and I want you to find deals like that in your communities. Okay?
All right.
Exit. I sold the property 3 years later for $2 million. Seller's proceeds, by the way, I didn't pay the seller. I took this $850,000 and I put it against another property in a junior lien position at 5%. And I continued the use of those properties until I sold the second property. After I sold the second property, I paid them off. But substitution of collateral is really good because it's really going to give you affordable equity. Remember that if you want to know more, if you want to do paperwork about substitution collateral, if you want to learn more about it, let me know. I'd be happy to answer anything. We do some coaching with this. All right. Second property. This is a very unique deal. Cliffview Plaza. This is a 20,000 square foot property located in Burnsville, Minnesota. This was my second deal. I bought a first building for $2 million, $30,000. I made $1 million on it. This is my second building. I was still starting out. I bought this thing in 2014. I think we sold it in 2017 or 18. I don't remember now, but I know I bought it for $900,000, and I bought it for $900,000, but seller financing was $300 grand for down payment. In the first one, seller financed the senior debt, and I put 50 grand down. Here, seller gave me $300,000 at 5% for 36 months. It did not secure the property with the mortgage. I just signed a personal guarantee. How this happened? I have the property under contract. My first building that I ever bought is on the contract to be sold for $3 million. I'm very excited. I'm like, all right, I'm going to make $1 million. I want to redeploy it here so I don't have to pay taxes. And then my sale falls through. Now, my sale falls through happens to many of us, but I need 300 grand and I don't have time to raise money. And so I mustered the courage, called the seller, And I said, Mark, I'm so sorry to inform you that after all the work we've done, I worked on the property, due diligence, everything, loan is approved, everything is set to go. My sale of another property didn't close. Mark, I really, really hope we can get this deal done. If you could please lend me $300,000 for 6 months, I'll clean up the property and I promise I'll pay you back. I'll pay you some interest on it. And Mark liked me. I mean, I met with Mark. I got together for lunch with him and everything. He liked me. He thought I'm a hustler. I'm a young guy. He's like, Rafik, I like you, and don't worry about it. I'm not gonna give it to you for 6 months. I'm gonna give you the money for 3 years. I was like, wow, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And that's it. And I paid him every month, 5% of 300,000, which is 15 grand, 15 grand a year, $1,200. It's not a lot of money. Long story short, the property appraised at 1.7 million before I closed on it. Buying for 900, appraised at 1.7 because I found 3 tenants in due diligence. And with these leases, the value came in higher. And that's what Mark liked. The property was stabilized within a year. I think within 18 months, I paid off Mark. And then after I paid him off, I went to a restaurant, a breakfast place with him. I'm sitting down. Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, Mark, I'm buying a fourplex on Lake Minnetonka. Would you give me $450,000 to buy it? It's like, no problem. I'll give you $450,000. I was buying that property for $450,000. And so he gave me 100% financing and I paid 5% interest only. So what happens is if you establish a really good rapport and a relationship with these sellers and they believe you're a good guy and an honorable guy, they'll give you money. What is it? I mean, it's like if you're a good guy, they'll get you. So remember that, right?
Good guy or good gal?
Or gal, yeah, guy, or gal, or whatever. Gals actually get away better because, not a lot of competition for you. Yeah. So what I learned here is that nobody wanted to lease this property before I bought it. And as soon as I closed on it, I cleaned up the parking lot. I painted the exterior, or we cleaned it up. And all of a sudden, people started coming. And we had a salon here, and it's hard to rent a salon, but you rent chairs. I hired a guy, he rented chairs, and we actually made really good money with the salon. And after that, we do salon suites now. And then I realized also that smaller units lease faster than the large ones. Like we had after closing, I rented all the units except the one boutique right here was like a 5,000 square foot unit, and they took me for a while to lease it up. But basically, this is where the seller provided 100% of the down payment. And so when I say, if you have a good deal and if you're a financial engineer, you don't have to come up with your own money. This is a perfect example of that. Saul and I are buying a $5.4 million property right now, and we want to split the lots. And if we split the lots and we sell off the land for 2.8 million, we could finance the balance of the building 100% and buy this thing with zero down. That's another creative financing option. So creative financing is really, really key, and I love doing it because it's a lot of fun. All right, now this one is a very unique transaction. This ugly building is a collision center for trucks, for like a semi vehicles. This thing was on the market for 8 years or so before I bought it. We kept going back and forth with this client, seller. I knew the seller from before. He's an old MAGA hat wearing Paul Seaton, great guy. He's about 75 years old. His kids didn't want to be in the business.
Rafik, we miss your screen.
You don't have a screen right now?
Yeah.
You don't see the screen?
No.
I see it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I apologize. Keep going.
Now we don't. Yeah, there. Yep.
Okay. Right there. See it?
Yeah.
Right, you got it. Yep.
All right. So this is a 5-acre parcel, 20,000 square foot building. Seller was adamant about getting $2 million for this property. Well, it's a metal building, $100 a foot. This is like 10 years ago. Who buys? I mean, we were buying stuff like that for 30, $40 a foot. So nobody saw value in it until one of my buddies who has a trucking business, like, dude, I need truck repair facility. I showed it to him. I'm like, what do you think about this? He's like, dude, it's perfect. I said, well, the problem is the guy wants stupid money for it, $2 million. It's not worth it to me. He's like, dude, if I can buy it for $2 million, I can make it work. I said, well, I might have got to make a profit too, right? So long story short, I got a buyer for this building for 2.7 million while buying it for $2 million for my guy. and buyer gave me $150,000 down payment. Now, the way I discussed this transaction with the seller, I said, Mr. Seller, I can't make this thing cash flow, and I don't want to put $500,000 on a property that makes no money. But I can buy it from you for $2 million. I'll overpay by a mile as long as you will carry a $900,000 note secured by a different property. And because I want lower payments, I can only pay 3.5% interest for 10 years. And the seller's like, well, as long as I get $2 million, I don't care. And so we agreed on a deal. On this particular transaction, I had my bank borrow us $1.5 million, and we were supposed to put 500 grand down. But our 500 grand was provided by the seller in the form of a $900,000 note against a different property. So it was basically a wash. And because I received the $150,000 plus the rents, we actually, Rustam and I, my brother, walked away with a $560,000, $68,000 check on this closing, on a deal that didn't really pencil or didn't work. Now, who wants to walk away with a $560,000 on the next deal you do? Please raise your hand. Okay. And so all I'm telling you is, if you have an understanding of the value of the property and the cost basis and the cash flow, interplay of value, cost, and the cash flow is where the magic happens. In this particular situation, here's what was the biggest blind spot for me and many, many of my real estate friends. This property was a full-fledged, full collision center with a paint booth for trucks. The equipment in this property was worth a lot of money to my guy, my tenant, my buyer. But to us, it was just a bunch of metal. And it had the lifts, it had paint booth, it had a lot of things. So for my guy, he's like, dude, I can make so much money here. To this day, my guy still owns it, and we have a seller financing on this thing. And he makes 40 to 50 grand a month, he claims. Now, he pays me $16,000 triple net on this property. My mortgage on this property is $9,000, and I pay my tenants, I pay my seller about $3,200, and I think we pay $1,250. We make about $3,500 on this property after having received $68,000 on this thing. So the value of this building was not in the structure itself, but it was in the business that was established in the business and the equipment. And that's why there's a delta between 2 million and 2.7 million with our guy. All right. So that's basically how that deal worked out. So when talking to the seller, I didn't say 3.5% interest. I said, I can only pay $3,200 to you on the balance of 900,000. And he's like, all right, I can live with that. And then I said, well, it's going to be about 3.5%. Just want to make sure you know this. And he was fine with it. If seller likes you, if any person likes you, the business, huh?
No.
If the seller likes you, they'll do business with you. They'll basically give you a discount or whatever. So just know that, all right? All right. I always try to meet with the seller at the property tour, even if they live in a different state. One of the things I talk about is proximity and reciprocity. Somebody lives in Miami and they're selling property in Minneapolis. I fly to Miami. I don't care. It's a business trip. I went to New Jersey, Cincinnati. I've gone to Hawaii to meet the sellers. Every single time I met the sellers, I got huge concessions, discounts, and seller financing packages with them. So I definitely stand by it. It's all about how you connect with the sellers. It's very important for you to meet with them face to face. You offer something of value first. Reciprocity creates subtle psychological debt. I tell them about my plans for the property sometimes. I buy lunch or dinner or whatever. I share with them a tenant name. I say, hey, I have a tenant. If you want, you can do that. I always try to be generous with what I can offer and sell. It kind of removes their guard. It's not a negotiation then. It's just a collaboration. Very, very important. Always treat the seller like you would treat a banker or investor. I always offer references. I offer a copy of my credit, PFS, and I'm like, look, I'm legit. I'll be able to cover the payments and stuff. And I'm not asking for seller financing because I don't qualify. I'm asking for seller financing because I can only pay you this much money on an all cash deal. But if you want more money, you got to seller finance it. And then ultimately, if there's a difference between your cost of the property and the future value, effectively what you're doing is sharing the upside with the seller upfront by having to put less money down and having flexible terms. That's basically the secret to this whole Jumanji. All right. So here's one thing. If you start the negotiation, ask sellers for financing in the beginning, it's a big no-no. It makes you look like you don't have the credibility or financeability. I never say, oh, please finance it in the beginning. I said, I can do a all cash deal. Like I'm doing an offer right now on a property. They want $20 million for it. It's probably worth about 17.5. And I said, look, I'll give you $17 million all cash, or I'll give you $18 million with seller financing. You pick, but I have a cash offer right away. And if they take the offer, either way, I'll win, because at 17 million with me putting up the money, or 18 million, them putting up the money, you know what I mean? It works either way. So we'll see how it comes back, and I can report to you on how that deal works out. Brokers, by and large, don't like seller financing because for them, they think that you're unqualified. So don't ever tell sellers, I don't care who, unless you're friends with them, don't say anything about seller financing, because they automatically assume you're not qualified. And if you're competing with somebody else, they'll push somebody else's offer before they finance yours. Now, if you're the only buyer and you made two offers, one cash and one financed, you say, look, Mr. Broker, I'm only offering seller financing option as a way to get this thing closed so you can get paid. If you get paid, boom, everybody wins. I win, obviously. But we don't want to do all this and not get paid now, do we? You always want to include a substitution of collateral in your seller financing terms, because once you establish a relationship with the seller and he likes you and you've been paying for a long time, and then you have a sale or refinance of that subject property, you say, Mr. Seller, I don't want you to pay the tax. Obviously, you've been paying your interest. How about I can replace this property with a new property I'm buying, or an old property that I own in my portfolio? And because now you know the seller, they know you've been paying for 2-3 years, the ability for you to substitute is so easy. But you want to put in your paperwork ahead of time so that the clause is in there. And that's basically it for my presentation. I just wanted to say, look, this is short and sweet. Any questions about this? And Alan can probably teach this class too. He's done a lot of seller financing deals as well.
Yeah, so we'll jump in a Q&A, but before jumping in Q&A, I want to do my plug-in about our boot camp. And many of you probably already got inundated with emails. This is our second one, and we thought it's gonna be easy to pull people in California, but it looks like on this call there's 99% people in from Midwest. So we still have I think 12 or 13 tickets left. So briefly, what is that? It's Small Bay Industrial Boot Camp, and it's gonna be me, Shay, and Alan will be presenting. The first day we're gonna be talking acquisitions and development. And second day, we're going to be talking leasing and operations. That's 2 days. And the sale of today is that I think we have 5 tickets that we can sell a $1,000 discount, whatever we're advertising right now. So whoever is on this call, if you want to come in, you're welcome. If you want to pass to someone else, I'll drop the link here in the comments. And I'll shut up after that. We'll go in the Q&A. So
tell us about Industrial IQ application that you have.
What's that?
Tell us about your Industrial IQ app.
Oh yeah. So we're using Bootcamp to advertise our Industrial IQ software, and what it is it is pretty much, there is no tool right now if you want to buy small bay industrial properties and focus specifically on asset class. About 250,000 properties nationwide, and they're buried in industrial categories, whether it's in CoStar or Crexi or whatnot. And the same thing was with the self-storages. So for example, when we're buying self-storages, our key advantage when we bought them, and we bought like 12 properties in a short period of time, is that we were able to build our own list, and we built only, probably 10,000 property list, and they were able to acquire them because many of them were not on CoStar, or you just pretty much you just pick up the phone or get a mailers and send only to that asset class. So the same thing we're doing right now for the small bay industrial. We're a little late on scraping entire country. We're at about 90,000 properties right now. There are about 250,000 properties nationwide. We were at 70% accuracy. We tested right now at about 97% accuracy. And when I say it's a model, it's pretty much a called AI model built, robot built, and we processing about 15,000 images every single day from all over places. And right now this bot is really smart. It's gonna take another probably four months to go through entire country. We're gonna have all 250,000 properties. So we're using the boot camp to teach operators to buy small bay industrial that we're buying it, and we're gonna be providing to everyone once it's dialed in as a software that we're gonna be using to buy those small bay properties. I believe the list is actually the holy grail if you want to focus on a specific asset class. All right, so I'll shut up. I think it was monopolized for probably too much time. But if anyone wants to attend, link is there, $1,000 discount. And if you know someone who wants to be operating a small bay industrial, that's the place to be in California. So, all right. I think Alan, you wanna add something, or Alan's gonna be co-host of that.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, super excited about all this. And Rafik, great stuff. I had two stories. When I met Rafik, I flew out to Minnesota, and Rafik was showing me what he was doing. And I immediately bought I think it was like a 12 or 15,000 square foot warehouse. I remember I took it down for around $500,000. And Rafik had this formula of just going to find like local users and show them how we can owner finance local people. And I locked that up for 750, and I'm getting cashed out real soon.
Oh, you gotta make some money on it. Nice.
Yeah, and it cash flowed. I mean, we did this way before COVID, I remember.
Yeah.
And I visited some of those buildings you just showed. So yeah, I mean, it cash flowed, and I'm being cashed out. So it's nice. I only wish I got a piece of the upside that he's getting, because he paid 700, but he paid 500. I got him at 750. It's worth 1.4.
Awesome.
Nice.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
When
it's
you
always
when
actually
you sell properties, they get all the upside, of course.
Right.
But you live with the cash flow.
But it's really valuable to be in this type of network, because it's those kind of little differences that can make you the extra few $100,000 or the extra few $1 million
totally.
when you least expect it. Because I never even thought about that until you told me about it a few years later in the gym, that you were writing in, and they were accepting if you sold them the building that you get X amount of dollars above, like a waterfall, right? I love that. And then I think another golden nugget when we're dealing with seller financing is you have to also convince the seller to not disclose the note, right, that he's creating, because the lenders don't want to see that in the paperwork. So the PG, the personal guarantee, or the second note that you're going to create when the seller sells you his building, yeah, for sure, you don't want the bank to see that in most situations. Rafik, have you run into that problem at all?
So creative financing can get really, really bad very quickly if you do not disclose.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah.
So here's how it works, right? I work with a lot of local small community banks. And when we go when we finance it with sellers, I always disclose and ask the banker to tell me how to position it correctly. Now, most of the time, if it's a personal note with PG without a mortgage, he's like, I'm not worried about it. You don't have to, put it in the deal. However, most of the time when you buy a property, like Cliffview Plaza was appraised at 1.7 million, I'm buying it for 900,000. Bankers felt very comfortable to finance, to allow $300,000 from a junior note, because my payment only was $1,200 more.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
So,
here's the other
yeah.
thing. Most of my bankers, local bankers, say, look, we actually like when you have junior financing behind our mortgage, because we know that if something happens to you, there's an interested party who will try to save their $300,000-$400,000 and make us whole.
Right,
That's the
for
perspective.
sure.
Yeah.
And
So
so
I can comment on that, and we'll go in the
Yeah.
Q&A after this right away. So the other way to do it, and actually that was a suggestion from the lender. Let's say you definitely it has to be disclosed, in my opinion. But let's say lender is not comfortable whether they're gonna put you in a second or it's gonna be unsecured. Then I had in the past where I put seller in the equity in the operating agreement. But
Yep.
as long as you don't have in a different class of money, different class of equity, it could be preferred equity and interest. If it doesn't have a fuse when it expire, then that is not a debt. As long as they have a time frame when in that operating agreement, then it's fine. And that structure came from a lender.
Oh, yeah. And here's the other thing that we do. This is a very, very unique way to package it. I'll tell seller, look, Mr. Seller, I can put you in the equity, but I can also have the buyout clause to where you have a specific timeline and specific return that you will get regardless of any other investors. It's a special type of share. So let's say I am buying the building from Saul and I have Alan as an investor, right? Alan gives me 250 grand and I tell Alan, I'll bring 250 grand, none of your business, I'll get it from the seller because it's my deal, right? And so I get Saul to give me 250 grand as a seller. I get Alan to give me $250. Alan gets the full upside and we split the profits. You probably get for 30% of the upside. But with the seller, I'll say, Mr. Seller, you're 250 grand. I want to reserve the right to give you 8% or 6% on your money and pay you off at par at 250 grand within the first 3 years. So now this is equity, but it's debt. So it's dequity. I call it dequity. It's a debt that looks like equity. And as long as seller is comfortable with you and they feel like you know what you're doing and you're a value add person, they should be able to allow you to do that. And then you're not loading up the property with extra debt. It's equity, right?
Yeah.
Alan, have you done anything like that?
I've done something similar, and I'm going to hold back because I want people to come to Newport Beach on the 13th and 14th of September, because this just happened over the last 3 weeks. I took down a $10 million small bay warehouse building a few years ago in Las Vegas. The seller gave us $1.5 million note, and I'll leave it at that. It worked out great. The building appraised for 17 million. We bought it for 10 million. So the numbers are a little bigger. And I want to tell everybody the story in person in Newport Beach.
Awesome. All right.
Any more
All right.
questions, guys?
Yeah. Let's jump in a Q&A. Let's start from Vlad. Vlad, are you still here? You want to ask the question? I'll unmute you. Or you unmute yourself. Vlad, I think Alex. Yeah. Vlad, you here?
Yes, I'm here.
I think your question was
Just ask the question himself.
how the seller saves on taxes, right? You wanna that's the
How,
question?
how it works, yeah.
Okay.
So I
So
guess
here's how
the
it-
question was from Vlad, how the seller saves on taxes on the seller financing. You want to take a stab at it, Rafik?
Sure.
Yeah.
So here's how it works. Let's say I'm buying a property from Saul for $1 million. Okay. And let's assume Saul owned that property for 20 years. What happens is if you own the property for 20 years, there's a depreciation of the property that happens on a regular basis, about 3% per year. And 20 years later, the value of the property on your balance sheet has gone from what you bought it for to almost nothing, to zero, maybe 20%. And the property value has gone up, right? Let's say you bought the property for 200,000, 20 years ago. Now you're selling for $1 million. Majority of the property cash that you receive is taxable income to you. And it's a capital gains tax for you. And if you live in the state of Minnesota or California, you pay California or Minnesota another 10 to 13%. Okay, on that $1 million profit. That becomes a $300,000 to $350,000 tax liability that you pay. And so even though you sold the building for $1 million, you only received $700,000 or $670,000 for your sale. All right. Now, if you seller financed that property and Saul gave you $50,000 down, I mean, you gave Saul 50 grand down and carried $950,000 interest only, then you only subject to paying taxes on $50,000.
Mhm.
And taxes on $50,000 would be 25% of 50,000. So 12,500 is the tax. You have not paid $315,000 in taxes because in the IRS's eye, you never got the money. You converted your ownership of the property into a note receivable. And then, well, time goes on, you keep getting interest on the $950,000. You're traveling the world, having fun, and bam, heart attack. You maybe found a really young lady, had a fun thing, and then bam, heart attack, you drop dead. And then your children or grandchildren receive $950,000 from Saul without paying any taxes to the government ever, because they go up to step-up basis, right?
Step up
Alan,
in basis when you die. Yeah.
Alan, is that correct? Correct me.
Yeah, I mean, not every state step up basis, but here in California it is.
Step-up basis federal thing, dude. What are you talking about?
But
It's a federal thing.
what about if you're still alive?
Yeah,
Hang
that's
on.
correct. Yeah, step up in base is the federal thing. Yep.
So if you're still alive, you keep getting the money. And if, let's say, Saul decides to sell the building, let's say you want to sell the building. If you substitute the collateral on that property, never convert it into cash, you keep getting interest on the money and never pay the tax. That's the magic of this whole thing, guys.
All right. Great. Awesome.
Quick question to that. Do you pay taxes on interest that you receive?
No.
Yes.
Yes, that's a
It's ordinary income. Yes.
Ordinary income, yes.
Ordinary income. Now, of course, full disclaimer, I think none of us is here CPA. So ask the CPA for the clarification. And even in a deal, absolutely seller, I always recommend when deals is penciled out before we sign, they have to talk to their financial advisor or CPA. So for sure. All right, next
That makes
one.
sense.
Anton, I hear Anton Demchuk.
I'm here.
Yep.
Yeah, quick question on seller finance. So when at the exit strategy, what is the usual length of the seller finance you provide to a buyer?
Yes. When I can answer it, probably Rafik, you can piggyback on that. So when I financing, I try to let's say I do some seller financing. Occasionally, when I sell the property, if I need to sell the buyer to help the buyer, I max probably finance at 3 years, but usually I try to do like a year or 18 months. 3 years max. That's kind of my appetite. When I try to get seller financing, I try to get as much as possible or no term at all.
So I have a deal right now. I own a 40,000 square foot building. Saul and I bought it in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Saul says, "Look, I need money. Let's sell it." I said, "No, I don't want to sell it for $2.5 million. So let's keep it." He's like, "No, I need money." So I said, "All right, here you go." I bought Saul out. So I own that property myself, and I have a couple of small partners in it. And then I listed it, and 2.7, 2.8, I got offers, but I want $3 million for it. So finally, a guy comes up from Columbus and says, "I'll give you 2.9 million, $50,000, but I want you to pay me. I want you to carry $300,000 as a seller note." I said, "No problem. Pay me 6% interest only for $300,000, and I'll finance it for you for 3 years." And he says, "I don't want to pay payments for first 12 months, but it's accrued." I said, "No problem, whatever." So we signed the deal. And so I, as a seller, make $300,000 more on the property that I would have otherwise made 2.7 million on it, right? And I'll get 6% interest, which is 18 grand a year for the next 3 years. So that's another 40 or whatever. And then when he pays me off, obviously I'll just, but I don't have to pay the tax on this 300,000, number one. But number two, I got more money out of him. Now, on his side of the equation, he told his investors, I'm buying this building for 3 million. It's worth good. It's a 9 cap on in-place income. I'll put up 300,000 and you put up 300,000. And so he gets better favorable terms because he's coming in to the deal with basically what looks like his own money. If you tell the investor, I'm putting with no money and you put up all the money, investors have all the cards and they will try to reduce your profits. But this guy is being very creative and I like it. And by the way, this guy is going to buy Mill Road and he lives in Columbus and he's going to buy our Beaver Creek for $15 million in about a year. I'm going to meet with him in September.
That's
See, I'm
awesome.
developing a relationship with the guy and I'll sell him another building that Saul and I own, which we have 200,000 square feet in Beaver Creek. We bought it for $4.5 million. We have a $7.5 million into it. By the time he buys it, we'll be into it for 8.5. If he buys it for 15, hey, I'll carry. Saul, can you carry $3 million for the guy? Of course, fail.
All day long.
You know what I'm saying? But
All
on
day
his
long.
side of the equation, if he can put $3 million on a $15 million deal, all he needs to do is come up with another $1 million and own this property with very, very little out of pocket. But he
Yeah.
can uncover more value because I think the property is worth 20 million in 3 to 5 years. So it's this creative financing is like a gift that keeps on giving if you apply it correctly and if you use relationships and understand the values.
All right. Let's keep moving. Daniel. Daniel has a question about sourcing the list. Daniel, are you here? Daniel Miner.
Yeah, I'm here.
What's
You
up,
wanna
Daniel?
you wanna clarify the question? I think that's gonna be for me.
Um, yeah, so I have a building here in Minnesota right off 169. Looks pretty vacant, pretty distressed. Nobody's doing anything.
Mhm.
Just did my kind of I'm residential loan officer, so pulled the tax record, all that sort of stuff. I think I got a hold of the owner, but and I called her and I got my no for the day, not for the week. Um, and she's like, "No, I don't know. I don't own that building. I don't know what you're talking about," and just hung up. But I wanted to see if there was another way to verify if
So
that's actually the lady
you
who
took
owns it
data
or
from
not.
where? From CoStar Correxy?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there is no bulletproof, but the way I do it is you typically look,
County
who
records.
who under which LLC is the property. Then you go, then you find this which state that LLC is registered. I would go first in Minnesota. Hopefully it's Minnesota. If it's Minnesota, look who are the members in the who are the members under that LLC. If it's Wisconsin, go to Wisconsin Secretary of State, and then skip trace those numbers, if those names. If you have TLO or LexisNexis, that's the best. If not, just use like Lead Sherpa or something like that, and just skip trace those members and call them. And you should this process, I would say about 80% proof. With TLO and LexisNexis, maybe 90.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Sergey, you wanna come up
Yeah.
on
Hi,
the
Saul.
deck?
Hi,
Yeah.
hi, Saul. Hi, Rafik. Yeah. So actually, my question was partially replied. It was like how the note, like a seller's note, work against another property. So if you got a note as a seller financing, you just can put it in another property if you have a substitutional term in your contract. But if you don't have this term, so does any like note could be put in another property or if it's just by the contract?
Yeah, I can answer that. Or if you want to correct me. So, note is just it's a note is just a promise to pay the payment, and mortgage or deed of trust that what's collateralized that note as a substitution. So note, note, it could be, it could be secured by the equipment, it could be secured by the house, by the building, doesn't matter. But mortgage is that what secures. So when you're selling, when you do a seller financing with a substitution of collateral, all what it is in a mortgage and in a note, there is a clause that says that you, as the borrower, and typically with an acknowledgement agreement with the seller, you can take and change the mortgage that you're collateralizing. Let's say you have a note and you sold the building, and you take the mortgage, you shred the mortgage and put another mortgage that's kind of, a security to another building. And of course, seller has to agree it. It's not like you have to, but they're not stupid, and I would never do it just behind the back. But you just move the mortgage to another mortgage without paying off the note. Rafik, you want to
So,
add
and
anything else?
you always have to confirm it with the seller, right? You cannot do this without his agreement.
I would not recommend. I think you have to when you write originally that note, there is a different ways to do it, and I think probably Rafik teaches that in his classes. There is many different ways to do it, but as a rule of thumb for me, I think yeah, you should be always confirming with the seller if he's okay. And so let's say I put in that substitution of collateral that another collateral or a substitute, it has to be no lesser in value and it has to be no less in debt service coverage ratio than the existing building that I'm substituting.
So let me give you
But
an
again, there is a
example.
million ways to do it. I think it's really probably a day class. And Rafik, maybe you can actually plug in that you can coach people how to do it, because it's really 2 weeks course, to get how to do it.
So here's how we did it. So first of all, I always try to put it into the document. And if it's in the document, you technically don't need his approval. You just call his lawyer and say, hey, I'm going to essentially use this substitution. Here's the paperwork. Please sign off on it so we can get it done. You might need to involve title company in it. So if you include it in the thing, then you don't necessarily need the permission, but out of respect, I always talk to the sellers and say, hey, by the way, I want to do this. How you doing? I hope everything is good. How's your health? How's your eyesight? Now, if you don't have it, here's what I do. I'll say, hey, Paul, how you doing? Nice to see you. How's wife? Everything's good? Okay, here's the thing. These guys keep spending the money like crazy, man. No matter how much money you give them, they keep spending it. We shouldn't pay them any more taxes. Just so you know, Paul, I'm trying to sell the building right now. I have a buyer, but if I pay you off, you're going to pay $300,000. Do you want me to help you avoid this tax liability? And he says, what do you mean? What do you have in mind? So, well, I can actually take your notes and convert it into another property and document everything. I can talk to your lawyer. I'll pay for all the costs, but you don't have to pay the tax. You'll continue getting payments like you did. But I need to sell the property, Paul. I have an offer that I cannot refuse. So most of the time, if you have a rapport with the seller and if he likes that interest payment, he will be totally fine getting you to release the property and then put it somewhere else.
All right. Awesome. All right. I think we have time for one more question, and then we'll wrap up with takeaways. Gina, you're on the deck. I think your question was about personal guarantee.
Thank you, Saul. Yes, I do have a question about that. So something that came up at the conference over the weekend, and I wrote it down. I wanted to make sure that I understood it correctly. Nikita was speaking and he was giving somebody advice, and he said, and I want to make sure I heard this correctly. I thought he said a personal guarantee on seller financing is not enforceable. Did I understand that correctly? Is that true?
Personal guarantee.
Yeah, I think he mentioned in most states, in some states, not enforceable.
Not enforceable in most states, Sunny?
Yeah, he mentioned in most of the states,
Okay.
enforce is at the state level. So in most of the states, not enforceable. He did mention that, yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I guess we have ChatGPT. We can always ask and say, in the state of Minnesota, is personal guarantee enforceable? And hopefully they'll give you an answer.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, but I think any personal guarantee you can enforce it through any judgment. So if there are any assets in that state, now you can go after it. I think it's that's long and short answer. But
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If someone signs a personal guarantee, there's going to be hell to pay if you don't follow through, if it's
Yeah.
exercised against you.
Yeah. I think any assets that in the state you can enforce through judgment. But again, I'm not a lawyer. Maybe that's a
Yeah.
good topic to investigate.
Hey, I was going to say, I just wanted to leave everybody. I know we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes. There's so many great ways to sell or finance, and there's so many ways to get involved with very little money down, or so many quick ways to buy and sell properties. And I think for beginners or people that are blowing and going and moving really fast, for me, I have found the best way to use seller financing is to ask for it when the time comes, because most people won't even ask for
Exactly.
it. They sit there and they try to fit a circle into a square peg when they don't have enough money to take the deal down, or an investor backs out. So yeah, it comes down to just taking action and asking for that second position, the seller financing. And then I think my other favorite seller financing, you're either coming from one or the other sides, right? You're either the buyer or you're either the seller. And we've been talking about if you're the buyer. Now, if you own a piece of real estate and it's driving you absolutely crazy, and you might be upside down, or you might just not want to deal with it, maybe now you become the seller who will offer seller financing. Because whenever that usually is the case, like Rafik said, the seller's going to get their price, but you're going to get your terms. So another way to cash flow your lifestyle, cash flow your lot. If you have a property and you want to get rid of it and you can't sell it fast enough, then you become the seller financer.
That's the ultimate
Right.
freedom, because you don't have to maintain the property, collect the rents. You just
Right.
get the checks, and
Right.
hopefully the guy you sold it to is solid, good, hardworking and driven. And
Right.
that's pretty much one of the reasons why I started coaching, is because I want to sell my entire portfolio, seller financed, and then I'll go play guitar with Alan or climb mountains with Saul. In the meantime, I got to manage the property and sign some leases.
Someone.
All right. So I think we're top of an hour. Rafik, I really, really appreciate,
Thanks,
like
Rafik.
always, it's ton of value, and it's always great to hear your perspective. And again, there's a couple of nuances. I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, I do a little differently. And you've done it, I think, in this room probably for the longest one. And so I want to really, really appreciate for your time. That was amazing, and I think all of us and everyone who is here, still 40 people after an hour, still hanging in, right? They're still soaking in that. So thank you very much. So with wrap up, I would like to go quickly around the room from a few people. Let's call Victor. Victor, what was your takeaway? One takeaway today. What you got?
Hey, so hi everyone. So yeah, probably for me it was that the seller financing is still work, and we can get very good deals, for small money with a small money down. And this is what I try to do right now, and negotiate like few deals in that way. So so that Zoom call will help me and give me open some eyes like in some ideas.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
All right, one more. Anthony, what was your takeaway? One takeaway from what did you learn today?
For me, it was basically when you offer the fellow seller financing to the buyer, it's pretty much you selling the house, the property, but it's like a gift that keeps on giving, right? With the interest payments that are given to you.
Right. You might get it back. You might get it back, but you got the down payment too, right?
Correct.
100%.
What would on a deal like that? What would you say the amount of down payment percentage wise?
So when we started off today, I bought it for 500. I sold it immediately for 750 to a user. And if he would have done the deal by himself, which he couldn't, he would have had to come to the table with, say, 25%. So I'll usually ask for 10 to 15%. What about you, Rafik?
So I try to put as little as possible. So like on that deal, I put 50 grand on a 90,000 square feet. I mean, 900,000.
No, you're going backwards. I'm saying, if you're the seller.
When you're on the
I
seller
sell
side.
properties, when I sell properties, I want to collect enough to cancel the contract and get the property back. So it's all circumstantial. I've done deals as little as 5% down, and I've done deals as much as 25%. So it's all over the place, but it's really circumstantial depending on what the buyer situation is. And I like to take care of the buyers and make sure they win too and stuff like that.
So if I'm using a bank and I'm wrapping the note, which we can talk about in Newport Beach, if I'm wrapping the note, then I'm going to have some money stuck in the deal with the original lender. So I try to get a lot of that money back from the buyer with his down payment. So I use that as a basis as well.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
So sorry, can I ask, because I checked on your link, so what did you mention about your event? Because I don't see any, and is there like special discount if we apply today?
You just apply and put in when you're applying just webinar. Yeah, so we'll give everyone $1,000 discount on the price, whatever we're advertising right now. I think it's $3,500 right now. So we'll give a $1,000 discount just when you apply.
Event, right?
What's that?
2-day event.
2-day event, yeah. In California, in Islands,
In
20 million.
California, yeah.
Yeah, it's next to me. And then it says if you approved, I went through the
Well,
questions.
yeah,
So
Shay, my partner, is gonna approve it tomorrow morning. Yeah. You'll get a call from Shay, my partner, tomorrow. So just apply there and just put in the brackets webinar.
And the price is 4 or 5,000?
It is. I think it's $3,500 right now, or maybe 4,000. I need to look it up.
There's a tier that keeps moving up as the tickets sell and there's less and less.
Yeah, that's the strategy we did this time.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
All right. So last year, John, I'm gonna pick on you. So John, what was your takeaway from this call? You muted.
I think from you, Rafik and Alan, it's always just ask for it. Ask for the money.
Yeah.
Ask them to give it to you.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
Gas.
right.
You don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, guys. Thank you very much. It was amazing. We'll do another one in a couple months. Thank you, Rafik, again. Thank you, Alan.
Thanks everybody, and I hope to see you in Newport Beach. We got a lot of great things working, and if we don't, you can make a lot of money with seller financing. So thanks for joining and being on.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
Great
Okay,
stuff.
bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.